What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for some content for you guys, review content, and we have finally beaten Chelsea by 2-0 at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium yesterday, which was definitely an occasion to be at. It was a lot of fun there at the Tottenham Stadium yesterday. Finally getting to put some on the Chelsea fans yesterday, which has been a long time coming, seeing as we haven't beaten them since 2018. And what is this? Probably like our only second victory against Chelsea since starting the channel or something.
Since starting the channel, well, we beat them at the Bridge. No, we've won a few. We've won a few. Yeah, we've won a few.
So that one at the Bridge was 2017.
Yeah.
So there was that one and 2018, right? That was the only two times.
We've won a couple of cup wins.
Cup wins, yeah.
A couple of cup wins, yeah. In the Premier League, it's been slim pickings, as they say.
But it was finally great to get those 3 points yesterday. And I think that when you're looking at the 3 points and you're looking at the league table, it was actually a really important win to get yesterday with Newcastle not playing, to go with a little bit of a buffer now. I know there's games in hand and stuff like that, but you do prefer to have the points on the board at this stage. And I think that we'll get into it all a bit later after the match review, but I think that it was a really important win to put our imprint in the top four race, and we're now there, got a little bit of a buffer, 4 points now in the top four with a nice little run ahead of us. So I think the outlook of the season is looking nice now, isn't it?
It was vital, and it seems as though we're getting our act together now after many months where it seemed like our defence could never be solved.
Yeah.
I think we're starting to get a few more clean sheets. That must be... I can't remember how many clean sheets it is now in the set of games, but I know it's 3 clean sheets at home in a row because we had City, West Ham.
Isn't it 4 clean sheets in our last 5 Premier League games?
Because we had City, West Ham, and now Chelsea, Fulham. Obviously, so apart from Leicester. So it's 4 out of 5.
Yeah, and everyone's talking about Spurs' defensive solidity. We've spoken about it all season pretty much. And I was talking about in the last few weeks, it looks like a bit of a carbon copy from last season where we beat Man City, lost to Burnley, went on a good run. We beat Man City this season, got battered by Leicester, and it seems as though we're going on a good run. So there are some similarities there, aren't there?
I hope so. I would say last season, the difference was we were creating a lot more chances. I think that has to be said. We were scoring a lot more goals last season. In this period anyway. I think throughout the season we've gone through periods where we scored goals, but I thought last season, when we were beating Everton 5-0, Leeds 4-0, we were looking really sharp in front of goal and opening teams up with that sharp passing. This season it seems a bit more like a grind, a bit more like a battle, and I think it doesn't seem as easy for us to find those openings, and we have to find the moments of quality rather than those structured passages of play where we can open teams up. I still think even based on yesterday we need to be improving on that, but what I'm really happy about is the improvement on our back line. The defence seems to be going in the right direction. We seem a lot more solid and creative, and we're letting a lot less chances than we were at the beginning of the season, and especially during that period, November, December, January, where we were all at sea at the back. That seems to be sharpening up, so that's really, really good news. So as long as we continue in that vein, we know that Spurs have the quality to pick their moments and find something going the other way because of the quality we have in the forward line. But I do think if we get, for example, if we're going to beat Milan, we're going to have to put in better performances, in my opinion, if we're going to, because they're really up for it. But it was a bit of a strange game yesterday because I know it was obviously beating Chelsea at home in a derby is so massive for Spurs, and especially for the last few years, but it just didn't have the same feeling about it. Maybe it's because Chelsea are doing so badly, maybe because they're 10th place, maybe it's because their fans have kind of given up. Lewis congratulated us on 3 points about 4 days ago. He was resigned to defeat even well before kickoff, and it doesn't have the same feel to it when the opposition have already given up in a way, and it's like you've beat them, and it's like, obviously I felt, it feels great to win the game, and we won and we played well, but it's just like the fact that like Chelsea fans were resigned to defeat like a week ago, and they're 10th in the table, and it wasn't it wasn't maybe a Chelsea team in good form or one of the better Chelsea teams we faced. It kind of took it off a bit.
I don't know. I mean, I thought atmosphere was in the stadium was good yesterday, better than it has been in recent weeks, better than it was against West Ham anyway last week. And I mean, I don't really feel like that because like he was that, like, Chelsea fans were resigned to defeat as well when we won at Stamford Bridge that day, and it didn't really take away from that occasion.
But they were still battling up on the table then.
Yeah,
now they're 10th.
It's true, but I don't really think it took away anything yesterday. I was so proud of the team yesterday for getting that victory. First victory against Chelsea in the new stadium. First goal scored against Chelsea in the new stadium in the Premier League. So it's finally so good to get that monkey off our backs in terms of Chelsea. It seemed like they had such a hoodoo over us for so many years now. It was so good just to get that win, no matter what state they're in. I don't really care. Getting a win over Chelsea is a massive result for me.
I'm not saying it's not a big result. I'm not saying I'm not delighted. I'm just saying it didn't feel like as big a result as maybe it would have been last season or something, because of the state Chelsea are in. But I think it was a really solid performance again. I think again it was very similar to the performance last week against West Ham. Really similar, and I think it's very similar, to be honest, to a lot of performances we've been putting in. And of these performances we're seeing now and the wins we're getting, it just makes me think like what would have happened in those games early in the season when we shot ourselves in the foot, like games we were just gifting teams goals, and it's very similar. Like the first half, we would be a bit slow, but wouldn't be like massively open, but like just be a bit slow. Wouldn't be like totally in control of the game, not creating many chances, but not giving many away. And then second half, we kind of just go at them, use our physicality, and take the game to them, and come out on top in the second half usually. And there were so many games first half of the season, like Newcastle at home, Liverpool at home, a few others as well, where that would happen, but the only difference was we would shoot ourselves in the foot first half and gift them a goal, and it wouldn't be something that the opposition had to work hard for either. It would be something, it would be a gift from Tottenham, and that really put us on the back foot. And then second half, we would finish the game strongly to think, okay, it was a bad game, but look at that second half, we were really good, but we kept doing that, dropping points, and now we're in a stage where we're not shooting ourselves in the first half, and we're coming on strong second half, and instead of getting back in the game, we're actually winning the game, and that's a big difference.
And that is why I keep consistently saying this to a lot of people, that if we had a solid defence, if we didn't have the key players making these errors that you're talking about, the Hugo Llorises, the Eric Dyers, Ben Davis at times, if just let's say just those three in isolation have got we replaced them in the summer, right? We got a good goalkeeper, we got a top central centre-back and a top left centre-back. If we had those three players, we would be right up there this season, in my opinion. And I don't even think anyone can argue that, because when you're looking at the games that we've dropped points, it's always those three players, one of those three players, that makes a vital error.
Yeah, and it's interesting when we, because there's been obviously people this whole season been complaining about style of play and stuff, and complaining about Conte's come under a lot of pressure from a lot of fans. He's not doing enough, and our defence has to be better. And that's absolutely true, because when we went through that period where we conceded like 2 goals plus in like 9 games, it's not good enough. But when we kept saying as well, what can Conte do about these mistakes? When players make these mistakes, it completely undoes the game plan. I think we're seeing that now. We're seeing that now, because look at the game plan. I know Conte's in Italy and whatever, but I don't whatever you want to say about Stellini stepping in and Conte not being here. I really don't see a big difference in performance level, and I just think right now the big difference is maybe what Stellini's been saying. These big players are taking more responsibility within the team to get the game plan done, and they're not making these stupid errors to gift teams a goal and give them an advantage. And I think we spent half the season just gifting teams an advantage, and now hopefully we can put that on the back burner, and now we can eradicate these mistakes out of our game, and we'll have a much better second half of the season.
I just really hope, look, obviously I hope these players step up for the remaining part of the season and for the FA Cup and the Champions League, but I really hope that if they do step up, that's not an excuse to keep these players in and not upgrade on these Dyers, Llorises and Ben Davises in the summer.
You can't rely on them as your number one players, as much as
we've seen it time and time again.
As in they can put good performances in, like City at home and yesterday, and you can get performances out of them, but to rely on them over a whole season as your main players in those positions, I think is asking for trouble. And as much you could maybe there'll be some fans who will turn around after yesterday and say, "See, look, Dyer can do it. It's Conte's fault for not getting him to play like that." But I think whenever Dyer does play like that, it's the credit to the coaching team to getting out of him, because I really don't think that is his true level on a consistent basis, unfortunately.
Yeah.
As much as he can show good periods of form, I think over a long stretch of games, when you're for example, Thiago Silva, when you ask Thiago Silva to play pretty much a long stretch of games, like at his level, he can do that because he's a world-class player. But Dyer, he can't keep up those levels forever. He can do it over maybe a five game period or something. Then he'll happen. He'll start making mistakes again, and we've seen it time and time again with Eric Dyer.
Yeah, you're always going to revert to the norm, aren't
But
you?
you don't want to start bashing them after yesterday.
But no. But look, let's get into the key talking points of the game. I thought first 10-15 minutes, Chelsea were the ones to start stronger. They were coming at us, and it was kind of expected as well, because what Lewis was saying before the game, like they always have a good 20-30 minute period at the start of games that then drop off. We did come under a bit of pressure in those first 10-15 minutes, but what else happened in those first 10-15 minutes was a potential sending off that no one really spoke about, with Thiago elbowing Cuti Romero. Do you think that was a sending off?
I watched it back yesterday on Match of the Day. I think it was a bit naughty from Thiago, but I think he just got away with it because there wasn't an amazing amount of contact. I mean, Romero did go down maybe to try and shed light on the situation. I don't think it was a full-on elbow. I mean, it sounds ridiculous to say it was more of a push with his elbow than a full-on elbow, if you know what I mean.
Is a push with your elbow not the same?
No, because one thing is like if you're contact, then you push it, and one thing is if you actually swing like that. It's a bit of it's a subtle difference, but I think that subtle difference saved him.
I actually thought that action was actually more of a sending off than Ziyech's.
Yeah, for sure, probably.
And like Ziyech, like at the time, obviously it happened like very late in the first half. At the time, I was like incensed. I thought it was 100% a sending off, and how could he overturn that? But I think look at it a few times now. I mean, it was just a push on the shoulder, and it kind of like just went onto the face slightly.
Yeah, but he did touch his face. I think he's lucky, to be honest. Ziyech. We'll get I think from my point of view, it's not a red card. I think they probably came to the right decision at the end, because I don't think it was violent enough to really get him sent off. However, we've seen players in the Premier League actually have a very similar action to what Ziyech does, and actually not only are they sent off, but VAR has actually called them to the screen. Like, for example, Casemiro, like a few weeks ago. Very similar situation. Wasn't very violent, but it was a kind of, he did make contact with the face. And VAR, the referee didn't send him off on that point, and then VAR advised him to go to the screen to send him off in a very similar action. So I think Ziyech, I think he was unlucky to have been sent off at the time, but I think he's lucky that the VAR decided to overturn it, in my opinion, because I don't know if that was enough to really say the referee made a massive error there. I do think it was a yellow. I do think they came to the right decision, and I'm not very critical of the referee overturning it, but what I'm saying is I think Ziyech is lucky that VAR deemed it worthy enough to overturn.
And Emerson completely made a meal out of that. Did you see? He's like standing up for 5 seconds and then just drops to the floor. Emerson.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think in this day and age that's expected. You like players just
but at least
make
go
a meal
down
out of
straight
it.
away,
I know.
You know what I mean? Don't delay it 5-10 seconds.
Because he's like, can I go down for this and try and get? Yeah, he's like, I can. He's like, I probably could actually. I probably can buy it. In those kind of situations, a lot of the time, I feel in these kind of situations, the player reaction is actually crucial. I've seen like leg breaking challenges. Not challenges that literally break legs, but like a challenge that maybe could have broken someone's leg, right? And if a player doesn't react to it, then a lot of the times it gets overlooked by VAR. But all of a sudden, if that same challenge is put on and a player's rolling around the floor doing 10 turns, all of a sudden the VAR will pick it up and give a red card. So I think actually player reactions make big differences in these kind of instances in what the decision the referee makes. And it shouldn't be like that, but I think that is the case.
Yeah, it made me think a little bit of that Martial sending off at Old Trafford when we won 6-1 with Eric Lamela completely buying that one. But look, I think Emerson completely barged into his back, and you know you expect a bit of a argy-bargy from Ziyech after that. But anyway, I don't think it was a sending off. I think the ref came to the right decision in the end. Then Thiago goes off injured after like 15-16 minutes, and I thought that that played into our hands a little bit. I know Fofana came on and did well, but if you're looking at a back two of Thiago and Koulibaly, Thiago's the one that you want to see go off.
Yeah, well, sorry, before we touch on that, some people are just touching on that Ziyech situation, saying Ziyech should have received 2 yellows. And I actually think that's a good point, because the referee took out the yellow. He made a foul, Ziyech, and the referee was going to book him for that foul. And then the whole incident happened, so he ended up sending him off instead of booking him for the foul. But then he booked him for the push in the face. So technically, that probably should have been a red card. There probably should have been 2 yellows.
Yeah.
So then again, he did get he got lucky that, in a way, because VAR. If he instantly gets booked for the challenge and then that argy-bargy happens, he might have been sent off. But because VAR, he got sent off and then they overturned it to a yellow, I think he gets very lucky.
Absolutely. I think that's spot on, to be fair.
I think the commenters are very right. In terms of Silva, for sure, it was a bonus for us. It was bonus that he went off because he has been so good for this season. I think he's the only. If you look at their team, he's the only real player you think there's a proper leader there. And like when the going gets tough, like he's the one they look to. And I think when him off the pitch, all of a sudden they lacked a bit of authority and leadership, and maybe that's when Spurs start to take control. I didn't think we created too much in the first half. I'm trying to remember. I mean, obviously Højbjerg hit the post with a deflected effort.
That was such a nice move for Højbjerg to hit the post. That one-touch movement from Richarlison and Ollie Skip, Harry Kane as well, being used as a decoy a little bit in that one-touch passing move, and then Højbjerg. Lovely shot against the post. I mean, Højbjerg as well yesterday, I thought was just insane. I thought he was so good, man. I mean, nothing got past him. He was like that proper Viking performance in the middle of the park. That shot as well. I mean, he was absolutely everywhere, Højbjerg, yesterday.
Yeah, I thought he was brilliant again, and the last few home games, he's really getting back to those levels he was showing earlier in the season when he was literally man of the match pretty much every game. And I think I'm really happy that he's getting back to those levels, because he had a bit of a difficult period between like December, January, where he wasn't really on his game, but now he's getting back to those levels that we showed consistently. And when he's at these levels, he really is such a consistent performer for us. And maybe since Bentancur's got injured, he's feeling, look, maybe I need to take more responsibility here. I'm now the senior centre mid. I mean, he was probably the senior centre mid with Bentancur there, but as he said himself, like Bentancur's one of those players that when you're with him, he kind of makes it easier for you. He makes you play better. And maybe now he's injured, he's like, okay, I've got like Skip and Sarr next to me. I'm going to have to take more responsibility now with how I play. And I think we're seeing that now, because I think they had a really great partnership yesterday. They worked well together, really well. And what I really like as well, because these the centre mid Skip and Højbjerg, they're not like the most expansive passers. They're not gonna do like 100 switches of play per game, like maybe like a Neves would do or something.
Like Harry Kane did yesterday.
Or Harry Kane.
Kane's passing was on show yesterday.
What they do is they keep them very close to each other, so they're always an option together. So they always have each other to play their way out of trouble if they are being pressed and stuff. And that's one thing I like about Conte's system. You could argue sometimes maybe they should be further apart, but I think it helps them for the profile player they are, and they did that very well yesterday. But yeah, first half, I think Chelsea started the better. We ended the stronger, but without creating anything. But if you bring on the phone, you can probably, I think the momentum bar tells a story. You can see there Chelsea having the early part of the first half, and then the second part of the first half we kind of came into it and started to really play all right, and then we came flying out the traps the second half. And that seems to be a theme.
It is a theme, and I thought Kulusevski yesterday, even in the first half, I thought he was much back to what we know and love about Kulusevski. I thought Chilwell found it really hard to deal with him. He was beating him time and time again. I still think he was lacking that quality maybe in the final third, albeit he was involved in the skip goal in that build-up. But I think that I liked Kulusevski's performance yesterday, but only because it was a step up to what it has been maybe the last couple of weeks. I still expect more from him in maybe end product.
Yeah, for sure. And I think we know, it's because we know how good his end product is when he's on his game. He more often than not, he'll make the right decision. He can put it on a plate for someone. His shooting recently just doesn't seem at the same level for one reason or another. But what I was really impressed with is his ability to take on Chilwell and hold the ball and put Spurs in situations when we were on a counter, when he had players around him, but he manoeuvred it into a situation where all of a sudden Tottenham had the numerical advantage, and that's because of his dribbling and his ball retention. That was really impressive yesterday. He had a really key role in that first goal as well, and I thought his Chilwell did struggle to deal with him. I think when Kulusevski was able to get on the ball, Chilwell wasn't really able to get it off him, and that's a big difference to maybe some other games recently where he's been maybe too easy to get off the ball, nudged off the ball too easily, and that's key. And I'm very happy that Chilwell's not an easy left back to play against, so I'm very happy that he had a very good game. Hopefully, I'll give him confidence next few games to start taking on his man more and not just do that thing he's been doing for the past few games where he does like a one touch around the corner.
He just tries to flick it around the side, doesn't he?
And it's too telegraphed.
Yeah, and it becomes way too predictable.
And I'm glad yesterday he showed a few more strings to his bow, and he was able to cut inside. He did that brilliant. I think it was in the lead up to it might have been in the lead up to the Højbjerg post where he wriggles in between two players really well, opens up the space, and all of a sudden Spurs are on the attack.
Because we know he's got that in his locker time and time again. He was producing that second half of last season.
Yeah.
So we want to see him get back to those levels, and I think yesterday's performance was some way to go back to that levels. There obviously a lot of things still to improve on, but look, as you say, the second half starts yesterday, and straight from the centre we scored from, didn't we?
Yeah, it was 30 seconds, wasn't it?
Centre goes up the pitch. Rishi plays it to Kulu into Emerson. Emerson obviously has that shot saved. Enzo clears it, and Skip muscles in front of João Felix, and Skip does the rest. I mean, one touch forward and a belter into the roof of the net. I mean, I do think Kepa should be looking at himself there because he gets a strong hand to it. I thought he should have kept it out, but I don't think it takes anything away from the strike because it was a brilliant strike from Skippy. His first goal in Tottenham colours, you saw what it meant to him. You saw what it meant to the crowd. Absolute scenes around the stadium when he did score. I'm just so happy for him, man, because those performances he's put in since Bentancur has come out injured, that one in Milan, the one against West Ham, and the one yesterday, it deserves it, man. He deserves everything he's getting at the moment.
Yeah, he's really getting back to those levels, isn't he? I'm so happy for him, and we all knew he has potential to be a long-term midfielder for Tottenham, and I think from what we've seen since he's come from Norwich, I think it's really impressed us. But just the last few months, he hasn't quite been on his game. He's kind of struggling to recover from that injury, but now I think he's over it. I think you can clearly see that. I think he's starting to even play better than he was when he first came in. At the moment, he's playing really, really well, really strong. He's dominating in that centre mid as well, which is really crucial. He's playing against some really good players: Rice, Enzo Fernandez, Tonali of AC Milan. He's got some really tough competitors of recent weeks, and he's coming out on top. So that is really, really strong, and obviously that goal will give him massive, massive confidence. I actually think there's 3 mistakes from Chelsea in that goal. I think Kepa should have held on to the Emerson shot. I thought it was a weak shot from Emerson, and he spilled it. I think Enzo was maybe. He kind of mopped up Kepa's spill, but if he's not there, Enzo, I think Kepa just gobbles it up and picks it up. Enzo decides to get involved and take the ball and clear it because maybe he's worried about someone following up. He didn't have to do that. Poor clearance. João Felix then gets out-muscled by Skip. I think that's more good play by Skip. And then I think Kepa should be saving that. Skip, I don't know what it is. It was a weird one. It was like he jumped too early or something, Kepa, because he gets a big hand. Maybe he was trying to make a fancy save for the cameras or something, but he gets a very big hand to it. And it's one of those where you look at it, and I'm not really sure how he hasn't saved it, but it's just a weak hand, I'm guessing. It is a powerful shot, to be fair, from Skip. And it is high into the net, so it's not the easiest save, but I think if that shot happens again 9 times out of 10, Kepa will save that, especially with the form he's been in this season. Kepa, he's played really well. So that was, I think, that was a few mistakes in there from Chelsea from their point of view, but not taking any away from Skip. It was a brilliant strike. But what I think the key thing was his aggression and to get ahead of Felix and make sure that we sustain the pressure. He said in a Match of the Day interview that that's something they've been working on a lot. Is the follow-ups and making sure that you sustain the pressure and making sure that the opposition aren't able to get out. And we were able to do that in that period yesterday, and that's to do with coaching and a really clever play from Skip. And I'm very happy for him to get his first goal. Yeah. Really happy for him.
And I thought we played really well in the second half. Obviously, that goal came right at the beginning of the first half of the second half. The second goal came right at the end on the 82nd minute. But the period in between then, I mean, Chelsea still dominated the possession, didn't they? I think they had 61% possession in that second half. But they just didn't do enough at all to score, did they?
60% possession. There you go. They didn't really threaten enough, really. I mean, if you look at the momentum bars, obviously there is a bit of blue there on the second half, but it's really not very high. They never really got close to scoring. I think they had a couple of moments where they actually played some really good football at one point. They were playing some really, I think, Potter made a change. He brought on Zakaria, he put another body in the midfield, and all of a sudden they seem to be able to play
Mount as well.
And they brought on Mount, and they seem to play through the central areas a lot freer for a period before we made a change as well. And they actually got in behind once, and they played some beautiful, I think it was Felix, quick interchange to Mount. He lays a lovely little through ball to Havertz, who was onside, but it was good goalkeeping by Forster, get to their head of Havertz and made sure the chance wasn't there. Apart from that, they didn't really have any shots or chances where you thought we were actually going to concede. I thought we held them at arm's length. I think this is very similar to how we've been playing recently, and very similar to how Chelsea have been playing recently. I think it's a bit similar to the West Ham game for us. We held them at arm's length. They didn't really look like scoring, and then we sealed the game with a killer blow when Son came on. And I think it was very similar this time. We held them at arm's length. They didn't really look like scoring. We looked like a threat on the counter. And then we killed him off with a late goal from Harry Kane from a corner. Very similar performance. I think it was pretty much a carbon copy of last week, but I'll take that all day long.
Who the hell's idea was it in the Chelsea backline to let Harry Kane be free at the back post? If anyone's going to be free at the back post, what, you let Harry Kane be free at the back post from a corner? Fair enough, but
I think Sterling had him and he just let him go.
Sonny whips in the corner, lovely corner. Dyer flicks it on, and Kane was at the back post, and 3 points was there for us. But look, in terms of individual displays yesterday, there were a lot to pick out from yesterday. I think we spoke about Højbjerg. Let's talk about Emerson Royal, because this guy is growing week on, week out, and you can see it there on the heat map. He was just everywhere down that right-hand side, coming into the central areas as well. I mean, he did such a good job for the team once again yesterday, didn't he?
Yeah, and look at that, 14 ground duels, we're winning 9 of them, winning 3 of his 5 aerial duels as well. I'm so happy about, look at that, 6 tackles as well. He was, again, so energetic. What I was really impressed with as well was, I think he's one of the best pressers we have at the moment. When Chelsea were trying to play out the back, and then you see Emerson coming, he really picked his moments really well. I thought he pinched off Chilwell a few times on that side, and I think it was another really impressive display. Again, when it comes to going forward, he just keeps it simple, doesn't overcomplicate things. Just make sure that if he's in an offensive position, he'll lay it off to someone in a better position. But what I'm happy about is his decision making. He's making a lot of clever passes in field. Again, if you look at that heat map, look how much of it is central.
Yeah.
I mean, it is quite a lot on the right, but when he's in the defensive third, he's quite wide. But when he's in the attacking third, he's quite central, and that's exactly how Emerson is playing at the moment. And he's not giving the ball away in stupid areas like he was. He's making clever decisions, clever passes inside, and he's becoming a valuable member of the team at the moment. I still think we're kind of adjusting his position to him in a way, because I do think if we had, like, for example, if Porro was integrated, I don't think we'll see Porro being as central as we do see Emerson. I think Porro will be out wide, and I think he'll be in more defensive situations to use his defensive quality. But Emerson is doing a fantastic job for what he needs to do for the right back situation. He's just not giving the ball away. He's been so defensively solid. They had nothing down that side pretty much. A few times even they got behind him and he made some really good recovery tackles. And I thought it was another really strong showing from Emerson Royal. Now he's put in some really consistent displays now. It's fantastic.
It's a bit similar to like the role Zinchenko plays at Arsenal, right? Where he just comes into the central areas, helps out the midfield. I know it's not a carbon copy, but there are similarities there.
It's a bit different because Zinchenko is a bit deeper and he's a bit more of a playmaker than Emerson. Emerson is kind of... he plays a bit more central, but he's a bit more higher up. He just plays very simple passes. He's not be too creative, whereas Zinchenko is different. He kind of opens up the space really well. He's more of a deep line playmaker almost when he's in that position. So I wouldn't say I would say it's very different, but I would say that Emerson is his build-up play. He's improved it tenfold since the start of the season. I guess the big difference is last season, and even at periods this season, like there were times where he was completely free and we didn't want to give the ball to him, and he would just look so uncomfortable in his build-up play, and you always felt like when he had the ball he was going to give it away. But now I think he's really worked on his ball retention, his decision making on the ball, and when to make the pass, who to pass to, and stuff like that. And now when you give him the ball, you're not worried about him giving away. In fact, more often than not, he's making the smart decision, finding someone in space to progress the play. He's not making like incisive passes or anything like that, but he's just making a simple, effective passing to help the team move up the pitch. Whereas before, maybe he was trying to overcomplicate things.
And it just shows how much hard work, how far you can go with hard work, you know, because it would have been so easy for Emerson to be like, look, I want out of here. The fans are treating me like shit. You know, the players, when I'm free, don't want to pass to me. Everything's going wrong. But credit to the guy with the mentality that he does have, stuck at it, and he's becoming one of our most important players at the moment. He really is, and consistent performer. So big up to Emerson Royale, because you'll deserve everything that you're getting at the moment in terms of praise. Another player I want to talk about is Eric Dyer yesterday, because I thought Eric Dyer stepped it up for the team really massively yesterday. Obviously got the assist for the vital second goal, but I thought his general gameplay was brilliant, stepping out from defence into the midfield really aggressively, not letting the oncoming attacks have a moment rest. I thought his passing could have done a bit of work yesterday, but the way he was stepping out from the defence into midfield, I thought was so vital for us.
Yeah, I agree. And Skip again said that that allowed him in a way the fact that Dyer he was actually stepping up to João Felix a lot, because they wanted to squeeze the lines between defence and midfield, because maybe I think we've seen it a few times this season, like especially against Arsenal, how the freedom of White Hart Lane Odegaard had in that game, and I think maybe we've learnt our lesson from that game specifically, because Felix had very little time on the ball this time round compared to maybe in previous games. Dyer was stepping out, and what Skip said is the fact that Dyer stepped out to Felix allowed him to not have to track Felix back all the time and actually move on to Enzo or move on to Loftus-Cheek, so that Spurs could be a little bit more better structurally in that sense. So Dyer was very big. He even seen the heat map. He's obviously quite deep, but he does have quite a bit, like in that just ahead of the penalty area in his heat map there. So I think that he made a crucial role for the team. Didn't have too many ground duels. I think he only did 2. But I think that's the kind of role you want from someone like Dyer in centre back. You don't want him. You want like Romero to do a lot of the layer work, and then you want Dyer to be protected, but also when need be engage when the moment calls for it. And I think he did that really well yesterday. And that, again, that's apart from the Leicester game, which I think, you know, everyone had a bit of a shit show on that day, I think he's been really consistent. Man City was brilliant. I thought he dealt with Antonio fantastically last week against West Ham. Havertz barely had a kick yesterday, and João Felix was really ineffective, and a lot was it down to Eric Dyer. And I thought he capped off with a really good assist, a really good flick on at the near post, and it was a reward for his good work.
And what was the key difference in that Leicester game? No Romero, no Emerson. And I think that led to a lot of, you know, but a lot of bad defending at the back from Spurs, to be honest. And Romero yesterday, man, oh my God, he was my man the match yesterday, Romero. I thought he was absolutely insane. And I thought he was insane against West Ham. I thought he stepped up a notch yesterday against Chelsea. I mean, the guy is just incredible. He really is incredible. And after not such a great start to the season for Romero, everything happened. He went to the World Cup, come back, and I think these last few performances from Romero is really him at his best, or getting back to his best now. I thought he was insane yesterday.
I completely agree. I thought he was near perfect. He was really treading that line between over-aggressive and actually really good timing or timing of tackles and things like that. I thought there are times you're like, oh, is he being overzealous here? But what? But never. The thing is, Romero, what I think people don't take, I think people maybe take for granted, is when he puts in those crunching tackles, and when he, for example, there was one moment I think near the end of the first half where it was really unnecessary, but the ball's there to be won, and he just comes flying in and boots it, I think, at Enzo Fernandez, and it comes off him and wins a throw. But it gets the crowd going, gets the crowd on side, and they can feed. Then all of a sudden the players can feed off that energy, and all of a sudden we can start physically dominating the opposition. That's what, and Skip was saying that as well yesterday in his interview. Said, you know, second half we were starting to feed off the crowd a bit more, and we started to up our energy levels. And I think Romero is a massive part of that, because how he plays, He's so aggressive. He puts in those crunching tackles. I mean, when he's in the form he is yesterday, and he's pretty much timing everything to perfection. Like, I struggle to see a better centre back in the Premier League when he's on that kind of form. I really do.
That is big praise,
I really
man.
do. When he's on that kind of form, when he's on his form like he was. I think the big problem with Romero is when he's off his game a bit. And he goes flying into challenges. He mistimes them a lot, and he becomes a bit of a liability. But I think when he's on the form like he is yesterday, I struggle to think of a centre back who can do that kind of role like that so imperiously. And he's like a dog on a leash, and you let him off that leash, and he's just everywhere. He's absolutely amazing, Cuti Romero, when he's in that form yesterday. And I don't remember anything Sterling did on that side, to be honest. I think he was really quiet.
Havertz was quiet, wasn't there, in the first half where Forster made a good save.
Yeah,
that was about it. That's the only thing Sterling had.
Like, I thought he stepped in really aggressively. Again, he goes flying into those challenges, but he times them to perfection. Chelsea just couldn't get away from him throughout the game, and I thought he was a really good mix of composed yet also manic as well. Like, and when he matches that balance, he's phenomenal. He really is phenomenal, and I think he's at that level now. Past few games, I think I know he got sent off against Man City. Maybe he went over the line in that game, but Man City, West Ham, and now this game, I think he's been absolutely fantastic.
Yeah,
absolutely fantastic.
And these are the levels we've been calling for Romero to get to for a while now, because he hasn't had the best season. And
this is what I mean as well. The ground duels, like when Dyer competed for 2 ground duels and won 1. Romero competed for 11 and won 8. Wow. So that's what I mean about. Dyer needs people next to him, like Romero. He needs basically 2 Romeros next to him, doing loads of the legwork, loads of the ground duels, and then when Dyer needs to, he can kind of step in and not be too overexposed. But he is absolutely phenomenal.
So proactive, man.
And if you look at other stats in terms of on the ball quality, 4 out of 6 long balls completed, 2 out of his 3 aerial duels won, and dribbles attempted. He attempted 5 dribbles yesterday and completed 3 of them. So on the ball quality, really, really high. Off the ball quality, 5 tackles. As I say, 8 out of 11 ground duels won. Really phenomenal. Didn't get dribbled past once. 0 dribbled past. So phenomenal performance again by Cuti Romero. And if he's in this kind of form from now to the end of the season, I really do think he'll rejuvenate our defence. And I think him putting in these performances has gone a long way. Why we've been so stellar the last few games at the back.
Yeah, no, completely agree. And I love that moment you were talking about before where he smashes against Enzo Fernandez. You're just like, you guys just won the World Cup together a few months ago. Doesn't give a shit, just bashes it against him. But that's what I love, because it brings you back, because when he was saying if Argentina were going to play England in the World Cup, what did he say of Harry Kane? He was like, I'm going to kill him.
Yeah, exactly. We're not friends. Exactly. We're enemies, and that's it. And I think Romero, no one embodies that better than Cuti Romero.
Absolutely. And moving up into the pitch, I mean, I thought Skip and Højbjerg, spoke about Højbjerg before, but both of them put in really good displays. But I want to talk about Harry Kane yesterday. I thought everything was going through him yesterday. I thought he was the hub of the team once again, being really physical up against the Chelsea defence and Chelsea midfielders. He sat quite deep, I thought, in the game yesterday, and the passing on show from Harry Kane yesterday, his switches of play was such a sight to behold, and I thought he was brilliant.
Yeah, look at that. 7 out of 9 long passes completed, and I think those switches of play are so crucial when not only do we want to relieve the pressure, but also to get into those offensive areas. And as much as Emerson and Davis had good games yesterday at wing back, like, they get in with Kane's switches of play that he has on him. They get into so many positions where they're in like loads of space, and I feel like, again, if they were better offensively, would make more of that out of those situations. So it's a bit of a shame that again we didn't. But Harry Kane was absolutely fantastic when it came to that aspect. I thought Chelsea, especially once Silva went off, failed to deal with him. As the heat map shows, he was pretty deep yesterday. He wasn't really that far forward. He was mostly like almost almost like a playmaker, having
That's what he was.
having Kulusevski and Richarlison and the full wing backs run off him as well. And then he obviously scored. He didn't have too many shots. I think as you can see, he had 2 shots. One of them was the goal. I can't remember what the other shot was, but he had a shot off target as well. I think that might have been in the first half.
Yeah. He hit it wide. Yeah.
Yeah, he hit it wide. That was it. But I thought he was another really strong, like a team display. Like he was showing a lot. I remember last season that he went through a period where he wasn't getting too many shots, but he was just playing that role for the team, and he did that yesterday. But he also got himself on the score sheet. Was it 18 Premier League goals now?
18, yeah.
Wow! At this stage of the season, that's a really strong
It's
showing.
just overshadowed because like Haaland's nearly on 30 already.
Yeah, I know, it's ridiculous. Haaland's on what, 27? It's a joke. But 18 Premier League goals at this stage of the season is absolutely phenomenal for Harry Kane. So, and he's doing that while also doing this role for the team, which we're talking about. So impressive. Deserved his goal, and a really good showing again by Harry Kane.
Richarlison yesterday got another start. Look, I think that he did such a vital role for the team yesterday, Richarlison, in non-stop running, pure aggression, getting in the faces of the Chelsea players. But and he was involved in one of the goals as well with that pass to Kulusevski, which played it into Emerson. I think it was far back from the goal. But look, I thought he did a really good job for the team yesterday, but still, it still leaves you wanting more, Richarlison, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think when you sign a player for 60 million and he scored quite a few goals for Everton last season, and and especially if you look in for Brazil, he's doing these overhead kicks and in the World Cup, and he's playing some really great football, and then he puts on a Spurs shirt and we can't seem to get out of him right now. And that's the reality. I think, look, no shots on target. I think he had 1 shot from outside the box, and then I think I don't remember the other shot, but didn't have too many serious attempts on goal. But what I really liked from him actually yesterday was his what he did for the team was actually quite good. I think he was involved in all our good play, to be honest. When Højbjerg hit the post, he was really vital for that build-up. Yeah. When we scored the first goal, he played a really good ball into Kulusevski, who was able to turn and obviously led to the goal. And then for the corner, he won the corner as well, which led to Spurs sealing the game. So I got to say, I'm not going to say he had a marvellous game. Like, I don't think he was he was brilliant. Like, I think Kulusevski, with what he did on the ball, was showing a bit more quality than Richarlison. But what I want to say is, I don't think he had a bad game whatsoever. I think he contributed to the team massively. Look, at the end of the day, football's a team game, and I think he contributed to the team really well. And as you say, look at the ground duels, 15 ground duels. Wow. There must be more than anyone else on the pitch. Brilliant. Winning 9 of them as well. So that is what he brings to the table. That aggression, that intensity, that he's kind of like a rash you can't get off. Like, I'm sure Reece James. How quiet was Reece James yesterday? Like, really quiet. And I think a lot of that is that because Richarlison never lets him go, continually follows him back in as well. He was able to press high and he was an annoyance for Chelsea the whole game, Richarlison. And I think as well, Stellini maybe I think Stellini noticed that by the fact that he took off Kulusevski first and not Richarlison, although I did think Kulusevski was tiring a bit. Maybe that was it. But I thought he did a vital role. And I actually think defensively, off the ball and stuff, like when I compare him to how Son's been doing, I know Son is also a team player, so he runs back all the time and gets in the position. But if I want someone to actually make the challenge, it's Richarlison all day long. Like, he gets there and he actually gets the ball as well, and that provides a really good defense. And I don't think it's any surprise. Like, past 2 games, since Richarlison started, we've been so solid. Not to say that I'm blaming everything on Son, why we haven't been, but I just think we have that extra bit of solidity when he's there, Richarlison, and maybe that's what they're looking at the moment. So did he do enough to keep his place maybe for next week against Wolves, or even on midweek? That's up to the coaching staff. I think I'm not disheartened by this display, in my opinion. I think he had a good game. I thought he was better than he was last week against West Ham, and I'm pretty happy with him. He just needs that Premier League goal. He needs that goal to get. You can see it's affecting him as well, because when he I think did he got taken off really late in the game. I think he got taken off maybe like in the 90th minute or something.
89th minute.
89th, that's it. He looked really disappointed. It's almost as if like he wants to stay on because he needs that moment for himself. And you even saw, I remember when he earlier in the season when he scored against Fulham and then he got ruled out. You saw how much it meant to him to have that moment. He took his shirt off, he got booked, and it was a massive moment for him. And then he was offside, so it got taken away from him, and he hasn't scored since. So I think it is affecting him a bit. I think he said in an interview after the World Cup, he's like, I've had a bit of a weird season and I haven't been able to help the team as much as or how I would like to, but I'm hoping that will change in the second half of the season. But I just want to keep encouraging him. I don't want to criticize him too much because I don't think he's done too much wrong. But obviously, when you sign a player for 60 million, there's no doubt about it. You want more. But I liked his display yesterday.
Yeah, look, ultimately, players in that position, what Richarlison is, you're always going to be judged on your goals, aren't you?
Of course.
And your output. And ultimately, he's not providing that enough. But
just like Son has maybe put in similar performances this season to what Richarlison showed today, but he won't get the credit for it because we want goals from him. Yeah. And I'm not going to sit here and praise Son for that kind of display when we need him to be scoring. So I don't want to come here and then start praising Richarlison for that when he's not scoring. But I didn't think he had a bad game yesterday.
Yeah, no, I agree. And just one more player, Ben Davis at left wing back. Last 2 games, 2 fairly good performances, Ben Davis at left wing back, in my opinion. I don't think he did enough going forward in terms of his crossing ability. I think that was lacking as well yesterday. But I thought defensively he did a solid job for the team and nothing really got past him on the day. Yeah,
I thought he had I thought we had a better game last week, probably against West Ham, but I thought he was solid. Didn't get drilled past at all. Again, Reece James, him and Richarlison really dealt with that. Him and Ziyech was completely anonymous throughout the game. I thought what he was really good at. Look, Davis isn't quick, and if you give the ball to him, he's never going to take people on and do things like that. But what he does do is because he's got quite good stamina, he can get himself into quite awkward positions for the opposition, and he just positions himself in clever areas to make the opposition run and track him back. And he gets in these really good positions in open space, and that's what he was good at yesterday. The quality on the ball when it comes to creating chances wasn't much to it. But if you look at the heat map, look at that compared to Emerson, so much wider. Yeah. He's just sticking to those positions to make sure that when he gets the ball out wide, that he's forcing those Chelsea players to get to him, and that was a good role for the team. He did.
Yeah, and I think it's well because Ben Davis on the left and Richarlison on the left. Richarlison likes those central areas a bit more. Kulusevski likes the areas out wide a bit more. So it makes sense for Emerson to come inside and Ben Davis to tug the touchline a bit more.
Potentially, yeah.
But look, let's actually just touch on Fraser Forster actually just before we end the review. I thought Forster had probably his best game in a Spurs shirt yesterday. I thought everything that came his way he dealt with, albeit you do expect him to make all the saves that he did make, but I thought he did everything to a high level. The save from Sterling was really good. He made a good save as well down low in the second half where he kind of just parried it away to a Spurs defender. But I thought everything that came his way, I thought he dealt with really well.
Yeah, I've got no complaints. Forster, I think the defence ahead of him was well organised, and that definitely helped him. Didn't like against Leicester, it just kind of was shooting practice at times, and he was disappointing in that game. But we didn't allow those kind of shots in this game, which was really crucial. I thought he was commanding, and then he had a big moment up against Havertz where he dived to his feet and got there first, and I think he did a good job. It wasn't one of his busiest days, but I think everything he did, he looked solid, and that's crucial. That is absolutely crucial in this kind of game, and hopefully that'll give him confidence to keep those performances up while Lloris is out. So it was good from Forster. No problem. No issues with him yesterday.
All right, big up. That's the match review for the 2-0 win against Chelsea yesterday at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Spurs now sit in 4th place in the league, 4 points behind Manchester United in 3rd, 4 points above Newcastle.
You can bring up the table on the phone.
If you bring it up. So that's 4 points behind Manchester United in 3rd, 4 points above Newcastle in 5th, albeit Newcastle have 2 games in hand, Manchester United have 1 game in hand. But with all the doom and gloom that surrounded us this season, to be sitting in this place right now, to have a FA Cup last 16 against Sheffield United this week, and to play Milan next week in the last 16 of the Champions League with a 1-0 deficit, I mean, you can't complain with the way things are going at the moment, can you?
Yeah, I think we're in a good position. I know we've got injuries, but there are players coming to form like Skip, which is crucial. Emerson's starting to come into form now. There are players stepping up when now the going's gotten tough, and especially when it looked like everything was going to crumble. This season, it looked like we were, there were points where it looked like, are we just going to go to mid-table mediocrity and stuff like that? And now there are players stepping out crucial times at this point in the season, which is really, really important. So I think there's a lot to look forward to, and I think we are in a good position. I mean, top 4 at the moment is looking like a good bet with Newcastle starting to falter. I watched the Carabao Cup final. They played well, but they just don't seem like they had that same belief potentially as they maybe did a few weeks ago. I think this run they're on, I think, was it 5? I think of the last 6 games, I think it's 4 draws, a loss and a win, I think. So they're really starting to falter now when it comes to winning games consistently. I don't know if they're going to get back to the level like they were at the beginning of the season where they're just consistently winning games. We'll have to wait and see, but they don't seem to be playing that well at the moment. I think someone said in the comment section of our vlog, I think we're the only team who's won 4 of the last 5 games in the Premier League.
Is that right?
Because City haven't. City drew with Forest.
We're the form team in the league at the moment.
We're the form team in the league at the moment in the last 5 games, which is crazy to think about.
We've got 12 points out the last 5 games. Man United and Man City both have 10 points, with Brentford getting 9 points.
And Arsenal also faltering because they didn't win 3 games in a row.
Arsenal are down in 10th.
So we are the form team in the last 5 games, which is really, really good. And I still think we have levels to go. I mean, I know as much as I'm happy with the performances against West Ham and Chelsea, I think if we're gonna, I'm mostly concerned about Champions League. If we're gonna really progress in the Champions League, we need to start playing better going forward and really looking like that dynamic side we showed at the end of last season, where it can score bucket loads of goals. I think at the moment we're still kind of being defensively solid and picking our moments, which is fine, but we need to get back to that side where we're opening teams up with our passing structures and stuff. But I'm really happy that we're starting to turn the corner, where defence is shoring up and big players are stepping up right now. So I think the crucial thing as well is that we got that buffer to Liverpool, 9 points with them. I know they got 2 games in hand, but there is no guarantee that they win those 2 games with the way they're playing at the moment. Is one of them this week? Leicester. Yeah. They play Leicester at home, so it could be 6 points with 1 game in hand on Wednesday. But
no, they play Wolves.
Oh, is it Wolves at home?
Wolves this week.
That's it, Wolves. So it could be, if they win that game.
They play Man United after that. So
no guarantee they win that.
The way Liverpool are playing, I don't guarantee 3 points in any game for them at the moment.
So that 9-point buffer, even with games in hand, is really super important. So I think we are in a strong position, and with all as you say, with all the negativity that surrounded the season, I think we have put ourselves in a position where we can have a very good end to the season.
Yeah, absolutely. So after all the doom and gloom, things finally starting to look up for Tottenham Hotspur.